In light of news that King Charles III's funeral plans are getting an update, it's hard not to think about what will happen to the throne when the monarch dies. As the heir to the throne, William, Prince of Wales, is in line to become the new king. But what about Catherine, Princess of Wales? What exactly will Charles's death mean for her? Kate will also immediately take on her new role. Kate will become queen consort.
The crown has changed hands in a way no one ever imagined. King Charles is gone, and in just one night the throne passed to Prince William and Princess Catherine. Inside the palace, sadness mixed with duty as a sudden coronation took place in the middle of heartbreak. But what really happened in those critical hours? And how did this single night change the future of the monarchy forever? Stay with me, because this story is filled with emotions, twists, and revelations you won't want to miss. A legacy of love and loss. There's something deeply moving about the connection between a father and son, especially when the son is expected to carry forward his father's legacy. For King Charles and Prince William, their bond went beyond royal duties. They shared private talks, quiet moments, and the heavy weight of responsibility. Those close to the family often said that William's steady support gave Charles strength during his struggles with illness. Now, with Charles gone, those memories feel even more powerful. The world didn't just lose a king, it lost a man who fought bravely against sickness, only to pass away in a way no one expected. In his final years, Charles often spoke about the importance of family, and in the end, it was his family who had to carry the burden of moving forward. This change of leadership was unlike the carefully planned ceremonies of history. It was sudden, raw, and shaped by urgency. It all began with a quiet phone call in the middle of the night. For months, there had been concern about the king's health after his cancer diagnosis in February 2024.
Over a year after the British monarch shared he had been diagnosed with an undisclosed cancer in February of 2024,
trusted news outlets like the BBC and AP reported how he carried on with public duties, even as those close to him shared how bravely he was handling treatment. Behind the scenes, doctors had been monitoring his condition closely. While some treatments showed promise, setbacks became harder to hide. Charles insisted on keeping his public schedule, even against medical advice, determined not to appear weak in the eyes of the nation. That determination became both his strength and, some say, his undoing. What made his passing harder for the family was the speed at which duty replaced grief. In earlier times, the country would have waited weeks for a coronation, giving space to mourn. But the world has changed, and in an age of instant news, the monarchy had to respond immediately. William and Catherine had only hours to process their loss before stepping into their new roles. The night everything changed. But everything shifted on July 18, 2025. Insiders say the king suffered an unexpected complication and passed peacefully at Balmoral Castle, surrounded by his loved ones. The announcement from Buckingham Palace soon followed. King Charles III had died peacefully. The nation fell silent. Flags dropped to half-mast. Tributes filled social media as people everywhere struggled to process the news. What made it even harder to believe was that only days before, Charles had appeared at public events. He looked frail, but still determined, leaving the world stunned when the end came so suddenly. Just a day before everything changed, there were quiet reports that King Charles's funeral plans were being updated, a sign that his health was a growing concern. But no one thought the end would come so soon. On July 18th, while William and Catherine were with their children at Anmer Hall, the heartbreaking call came through. The king had passed away. At Balmoral, staff members who had served Charles for decades wept openly. The estate, often filled with laughter during summers, became the backdrop for hushed conversations and hurried preparations. In those first hours, Charles was remembered not as a monarch, but as a father, grandfather, and friend. Tears flowed as the family faced the reality, and soon the entire nation joined in mourning. Flowers began to pile up outside palaces, just like they had after Queen Elizabeth's passing in 2022. But this time,
this is BBC News from London. Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Grief wasn't the only thing on people's minds. The crown had to move forward immediately. There was no delay. The rules of succession placed William next in line, and with that, history shifted overnight. Across the Commonwealth, leaders held vigils, and church bells rang in tribute. In cities from Sydney to Toronto, landmarks were lit in Charles's memory. For many, his death was not only Britain's loss, but a shared global moment of grief. Historians quickly pointed out how rare such a moment was. The last time Britain saw a transition under such sudden circumstances was decades ago. Yet unlike the past, when news traveled slowly, the modern world watched this shift unfold in real time. Every update, every image, every detail reaching millions within seconds. It was history happening live, and it left no room for pause. King Charles's death left a deep emptiness. His reign may have been short, but it was filled with passion. He pushed for environmental action, spoke for unity, and tried to modernize parts of the monarchy while honoring traditions. But behind the public image, his health struggles were always there. From the medical procedure that revealed his cancer to the many treatments that followed, he carried on with duty, even as his strength faded. By the summer of 2025, those closest to him worried he was working too hard. In his final days, he leaned on family, sharing quiet walks and heartfelt talks with William, passing on not just responsibility, but wisdom. The crown passes to William, and now, the weight of the crown rests on William's shoulders. He had prepared for this moment his whole life, but never wanted it to arrive this way. The question now is clear: how will William and Catherine step into this new role, and what kind of king and queen will they become? William's preparation wasn't only about learning statecraft. Friends say his years as an air ambulance pilot shaped him deeply, exposing him to real human struggles far removed from palace walls. That experience gave him perspective and empathy, qualities many believe will define his reign. Throughout his reign, Queen Camilla's steady support was seen as a source of strength for King Charles III. Earlier in the year, false rumors about his death were dismissed by outlets like Newsweek and The Guardian. But the truth arrived with a force that shook the nation. In March 2025, People magazine reported a short hospital stay due to treatment side effects, a reminder of the toll illness was taking on him. Charles's legacy was marked by quiet but meaningful changes. He opened Balmoral Castle to the public, championed sustainability, and worked to modernize the monarchy while still honoring its traditions. Yet his passing exposed not only the strength of royal structures, but also the personal vulnerability of the family left behind. For William, stepping into his father's place meant more than gaining a crown. It meant becoming the figure people would look to in moments of uncertainty. As one palace aide explained, "This is the moment where Prince William became King William."
After his father, Prince Charles, Prince William is second in the line of succession to the British throne. But according to one expert, this future King of England might also be the last.
Not just in name, but in spirit. The line of succession was clear, as outlined in the Succession to the Crown Act. Prince William became king immediately after his father's death, with Prince George next in line. No ceremony was required for the transition. Still, emotional readiness was another matter entirely. During Charles's last public appearances, observers noted the heavy expressions among family members, aware of the struggle he faced. Princess Catherine had often been by his side, her calm presence reflecting the same quiet strength she has shown in her own challenges. When the end finally came, it was not just the close of a reign, it was the turning of a page. The loss forced Prince William to step into his destiny far sooner than he had expected. Behind palace doors, officials quickly organized the Accession Council, which met virtually given the urgency of the situation. What might have looked orderly to the public carried the weight of raw emotion in private. Family members gathered to share memories of Charles's warmth and humor, even as William prepared for the role of king. This overnight transition echoed the past, yet carried the marks of a modern era. The monarchy shifted in an instant, and while the nation mourned a king who had tried to bridge old traditions with new realities, attention turned to William and Catherine, the couple now at the center of history. A family's strength during sorrow. In the hours after King Charles's passing, the royal family leaned on one another through the weight of loss and sudden change. Queen Camilla offered quiet support to Prince William as he stepped into his new role, while the public learned the news through a somber BBC announcement. Almost instantly, social media was filled with messages of grief for Charles and anticipation for the reign of King William V. What touched people most was the family's visible emotion. Princess Charlotte's curiosity and questions reflected the innocence of youth, while Prince George stood with a quiet awareness of the role that awaits him in the future. Through it all, Catherine provided calm reassurance, steadying her family during one of its most difficult moments. On paper, the transition was immediate and smooth. William automatically became king under the laws of succession. But emotionally, it was overwhelming. By dawn, he was King William V, carrying the burden of duty while mourning his father. The moment bonded the family even closer, as their grief slowly transformed into resolve. William had long been preparing for this future, studying global affairs and leadership, while also taking on charitable causes close to his heart. His years of preparation, however, could not take away the personal pain of losing a father. Palace insiders described the private grief William endured, supported closely by Catherine, who has been his anchor in both family life and public duty. Meanwhile, the nation found comfort in familiar rituals. Candlelight vigils, church services, and moments of silence created a sense of unity across the UK. Strangers gathered in city squares, singing hymns and sharing stories of Charles's reign, proving that in grief, communities draw closer. This sudden transition was not just about inheriting a crown, it was about growth. William's journey from prince to king has been shaped by fatherhood, by lessons from Charles, and by Catherine's steady influence. Together, they have promised a monarchy that will remain grounded in compassion, with William's long-standing focus on mental health and homelessness now expected to guide his reign. The shift came overnight, blending sorrow with responsibility. For William, it marked the hardest test yet, balancing the loss of a beloved father with the demands of leading a nation. As Prince William stepped into his new role, the nation saw both a leader prepared for duty and a son carrying deep grief. His journey gave people hope for the future, even in such difficult times. Alongside him, Catherine's transformation into Queen Catherine captured hearts.
The future King and Queen of England, Prince William and Kate Middleton, looking ever so regal at their latest royal engagement.
Admired for years for her kindness and grace, she now became the emotional center of the monarchy. Charles's sudden death brought her into the spotlight sooner than expected. Within the family, she was described as the anchor reassuring William and keeping their children steady through the shock. While William faced the formal demands of kingship, Catherine focused on the home front, ensuring their young family felt safe. Her calm strength reflected the same quiet gestures the public had often seen in her role as a mother. Catherine's rise carried even greater meaning given her own recent health struggles. Her resilience, combined with her natural empathy, made her ascension feel not only historic, but deeply human. Royal commentators suggest she will use her new position to continue championing family causes and charities close to her heart, blending tradition with a modern outlook. The coronation itself unfolded under extraordinary circumstances. Held overnight at Westminster Abbey, it was a mix of urgency and solemnity. Unlike the grand ceremonies of the past, This event was private and intimate, attended only by close family and officials. The Archbishop of Canterbury anointed William with holy oil as symbols of duty and continuity filled the air. Catherine stood beside him, her crown representing both partnership and strength. Those present described an atmosphere heavy with emotion, dimly lit, filled with tears, yet united by purpose. The couple exchanged glances that spoke more than words, balancing sorrow with determination. The children watched closely, with George showing quiet composure that hinted at his own future responsibilities. Even Queen Camilla's presence added weight to the moment, as she offered steady support. This coronation was not just about ritual. It was both a farewell to King Charles and the beginning of a new chapter. The sudden loss reshaped the royal family overnight, bringing heartbreak, but also binding them closer together. For William, Catherine, and their children, it was the start of a new era, one defined by resilience, unity, and the challenge of carrying the monarchy forward. Prince George, now second in line to the throne, has taken a step closer to the future that awaits him. Though still so young, he suddenly carries a sense of responsibility that once felt far away. People close to the family say William and Catherine have been slowly guiding him toward this role, but the weight of reality became clear when George showed surprising maturity during those early family moments of grief. Princess Charlotte's steady confidence also stood out. Even through her tears, she carried herself with a calm strength, much like she has in public before. At home, she became a source of comfort, quietly reassuring her little brother Louis, whose innocence and playful nature brought small bursts of joy to the heavy atmosphere. Family roles shifted quickly as Queen Camilla stepped into the position of Queen Dowager, a title rooted in royal tradition. She was said to be a strong support for William, her presence at the sudden coronation helping provide a sense of stability during a time of loss. Still, the absence of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle was strongly felt. Their distance from the family was clear during this moment of crisis, though some reports hinted at quiet efforts behind the scenes to heal the rift. Harry's place in the royal line remains, yet his life in California feels far removed from the palace's grief. Across Britain, King Charles's death brought both sorrow and a sense of unity. The nation mourned deeply, while also holding on to hope for the future, just as it had during the passing of Queen Elizabeth.
Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Across the UK, flags flew at half-mast and flowers gathered in endless rows outside Buckingham Palace, a heartfelt symbol of national mourning. Much like past royal losses, the grief was shared in communities everywhere, bringing people closer in remembrance. At the same time, questions began to rise about what this transition might mean for the economy, with experts pointing to possible shifts in markets. Yet, William's message of stability and continuity reassured many that disruptions could be kept to a minimum. Causes once supported by Charles also saw a wave of renewed attention. Charities focused on the environment, healthcare, and education received surges in donations, showing how people chose to honor his memory through action. Catherine, now stepping into her role as queen, strengthened both family ties and the nation's sense of unity. Her warm and caring nature, much like the way she raises her children, brought comfort and strength to the public in this time of change. Beyond Britain, the Commonwealth nations paused to reflect on Charles's influence. Leaders across the globe sent messages of condolence, acknowledging his decades of symbolic service and steady guidance. The moment also drew members of the royal family closer together as they promised to continue the causes he cared about most. A new era for the monarchy. Despite the grief, there was also a feeling of renewal. With William and Catherine now leading as king and queen, the monarchy enters a new chapter. Their approach blends tradition with fresh ideas, aiming for a crown that feels more open, relatable, and modern. Insiders say William is focused on reshaping the royal household, not through dramatic change, but through thoughtful evolution. A A simpler coronation and a leaner royal structure are expected, designed to highlight efficiency and public value while keeping the monarchy firmly connected to the people it serves. William and Catherine's vision for the monarchy focuses on keeping things simple, cutting unnecessary costs, and making sure the royal family feels closer to everyday life while still respecting the traditions of the past. Protecting the environment remains one of their top priorities, with William continuing his global sustainability work through the Earthshot Prize. At the same time, mental health will stay in the spotlight, with efforts like the Heads Together campaign growing stronger to help remove stigma and provide real support for people. Family also plays a central role in their approach. Catherine is deeply involved in promoting early childhood care and balance between work and home life, ensuring that George, Charlotte, and Louis grow up with normal experiences while also preparing for their royal responsibilities. Observers believe this new approach could create a more flexible monarchy, one that allows the younger generation to explore personal passions, whether in conservation, international work, or other meaningful paths, instead of being tied only to tradition. Catherine's new role as queen brings a sense of warmth and sincerity, adding a human touch to the throne and strengthening the bond between the royal family and the public. Catherine is stepping into this new role not just as a duty, but as something she truly cares about. With memories of Queen Elizabeth's strength and Princess Diana's kindness, she is bringing together the old and the new. By showing family moments online and staying close to people through charity and service, William and Catherine are building a royal life that feels more open and real. Of course, there will be tough times ahead, with criticism, pressure, and big changes in the world. But what matters most is that they face it together with love and trust. This is not the end of a story, it is the beginning of a new one. So what do you think about this new chapter for the royal family? Tell us in the comments, because the crown is still here, shining brighter than ever and ready to guide the future.